Great, welcome everyone. Hi, my name is Terry Beswick and I'm the Executive Director of the GLBT Historical Society. And I just want to briefly introduce the organization and the event, and then I'll turn it over to Leigh, who is moderating our event tonight and put it together, of course. So the GLBT Historical Society, for those of you who are not familiar with us, what we do is we collect and we preserve and exhibit and make accessible to the public materials and knowledge to support and promote understanding of LGBTQ culture, history, and arts in all their diversity. We were founded in 1985 and we're recognized internationally as a leader in the field of LGBTQ public history. And tonight, I'm really excited about tonight's event because we've got the Gilbert Baker exhibit up on our website. And we've been thinking a lot about flags, of course, this time of year in particular. The topic for tonight is the Beyond the Rainbow, Queer Symbology, History, and Flag Making. And so we're gonna have a great workshop led by Lena Heller. And and I just wanna introduce Leigh, but before I do that, I wanna make a quick pitch for memberships for the Society. This June, throughout the month of June, we're doing a special on our memberships. And typically they're at $50 for the entire year. For the month of June, you can get a membership to the Historical Society for the whole year for just $35. And so if you just go to our website, it's glbthistory.org/memberships, and you can check it out there, and there's some great benefits of membership at all the different levels. Thank you for posting that, Leigh. It's really like our bread and butter for the organization. The larger donations are of course fabulous, but the memberships are what keep us going. Of course, our museum is closed down right now and our archives are closed. But we're still very active in online, and if you check out our website, you can actually see a lot of really great programming with exhibitions, recorded events like this one, and also great archival resources. So your memberships are going to continue to support our work throughout the year. So with that, I'm excited to introduce Leigh. Leigh Pfeffer has held a variety of roles in nonprofits and museums, from program and events coordination to visitor services. Leigh manages the Society's museum operations, public programs, and volunteers. They also manage me, but part of the time, but they're excited about cultivating relationships with community members who share a passion for our mission. Before joining the Historical Society, they worked for the Exploratorium and managed a volunteer speakers panel program and operations at the Diversity Center in Santa Cruz. In their spare time, Leigh produces and is co-host of the podcast, History is Gay. And History is Gay. And with that, I'm gonna leave it to Leigh to introduce Lena, and you can get rid of me. All right, thank you all, have fun.
Bye, Terry, thank you.
All right, see you later, bye.
Bye. So, hi everyone that's in here. We've got a small but mighty group tonight. Thank you for joining us. So this is actually a program that we had done back in January, originally at the museum, and it went really, really well. And because we were reintroducing the Gilbert Baker exhibition onto our website while we're all stuck in shelter in place, we really wanted to revisit it here and kind of give everyone a little bit of an art break. So what we're going to do tonight is we're going to have a little bit of history. I'm going to go through a presentation and slideshow that I put together, and then I'll hand it over to Lena, who is a former intern with us, and they currently work at, oh my God, brain, need it in front of me. What is it? The Museum of
Art and Digital Entertainment. Yeah.
I have like 3 screens going on right now, apologies. But Lena will be leading us in the workshop section of the evening. We've got some nice little surprises for you, and it'll be a little bit of a kind of a Bob Ross style evening. Everyone is encouraged. Feel free to start, like, as I'm going through the presentation. As you learn a little bit about the history of the symbols, you might want to start incorporating things. Feel free to start playing around and doing your own art as we're going through. You don't have to wait until like the workshop section. And we'd really love if anybody is working on anything and making some art while we're doing this, and would like to show it off, we can put you up on the screen. We'd really love this to be kind of a collaborative evening, at least that part of it. So with that, I will kind of get started here. I'll share my screen. Let's see here. All right. Can everybody see that okay? Got that? All right, so this is Beyond the Rainbow, Building Queer Symbologies Before and After Gilbert Baker. So if you have not yet checked out our exhibition on our website, I highly suggest you do. It's really interesting, it's really fascinating, and it's really fun. So many people know about Gilbert Baker as the creator of the rainbow flag, but this exhibition really goes into his life as a prolific seamstress and activist and performer. And we wanted to kind of, and the curators wanted to expand on that knowledge about him. I wanted to have an opportunity to talk about what Gilbert Baker and the rainbow flag did for the queer community in galvanizing around a symbol, and talk a little bit about where we were before and where we were directly after it debuted and where we're going now. We're always moving. So we're basically going to go back through some history of a whole bunch of different symbols as far back as like 600 BC. So let's go ahead and start off with pre-1978. So before we had the rainbow flag premiere in the UN Plaza. So this is not going to go in any particular order. This is just kind of the order that I put things in originally, but it'll be divided in kind of before and after spaces. So the first one I want to talk about is the green carnation. I don't know how many of you are familiar with the green carnation. You can also, if you have comments, feel free to utilize the chat. You can, put your own comments and interesting tidbits in here, and that'll be useful for folks to see. But the green carnation came about in the 1890s and was popularized by Oscar Wilde, the dandy aesthete playwright and arguably one of the most well-known 19th century queer figures in Western history. He's not necessarily the originator of the symbol as a queer signifier, but he was definitely a vital person in popularizing it. He spent time in the Parisian art and literary world in the 1880s, and in 1889 noted in an essay that the color green was, quote, in individuals, always a sign of subtle artistic temperament. Early sexologists at the time also noted that green tended to be the favorite color of inverts, which was the term commonly used to describe gay men at the time. Oscar Wilde, who was known for adorning himself with lilies and sunflowers and other different like floral accoutrements, at the 1892 premiere of his play Lady Windermere's Fan, adorned himself with a white carnation that was dip-dyed in a distinctive green color, which is not a color that is naturally found in the flower's varieties. And it produced this lurid blue-green artificial flower that blossomed not only in the buttonhole of his jacket, but in the lapel of the play's leading man, as well as a dozen of Wilde's associates that he had invited to join into the audience that evening. It was a big spectacle, as Oscar Wilde loved to do. And so, of course, everyone was wondering, what does it mean? As an associate of Wilde asked, to which he replied, being as cheeky as ever as he was, nothing whatever, but that is just what nobody will guess. He wanted the public to gaze upon the spectacle and wonder at its mystery, coyly avoiding any answer. In the same conversation, he also hinted to one of his followers that he should get a green carnation at a famous flower shop in London because they grow there, which is probably my favorite part of that story. There's an organization called Oscar Wilde Tours. It's a travel organization, and they use the green carnation as their logo. And they have a quote that I really enjoyed. As anyone who knew the decadent movement would see, Wilde was playing with one of his favorite ideas, that nature should imitate art and not the reverse. In that sense, then, the green carnation was symbolic. A flower of an unnatural color embodied the decadent and the unnatural. 2 years after the Lady Windermere's fan spectacle, in 1894, there was a scandalous satirical novel that was published called The Green Carnation. It was first published anonymously, but then later was discovered the author was Robert Hitchens, who was one of the men in Wilde's circle of admirers. The lead characters in the novel are closely based on Wilde and his lover, Lord Alfred Bosie Douglas, and it was an instant success. The novel's scandalous nature was instrumental in contributing to Wilde's arrest and trial for gross indecency, aka sodomy, homosexuality. So much so that Wilde actually had to publicly refute the widely held belief that he was the anonymous author. He wrote into the Pall Mall Gazette in October 1894 saying, "Sir, kindly allow me to contradict in the most emphatic manner the suggestion made in your issue of Thursday last, and since then copied into many other newspapers, that I am the author of the Green Carnation. I invented that magnificent flower. But with the middle class and mediocre book that usurps its strangely beautiful name, I have, need hardly to say, nothing what to do soever. The flower is a work of art, the book is not," which is one hell of a read. It continued to proliferate. Years later, a tongue-in-cheek to the Green Carnation's past symbolism emerged decades later in the lyrics of a song from Noel Coward's 1929 operetta Bittersweet. And so you can see here's a little here's the cover of one of the songs from the show. There's a song in the operetta called We All Wore the Green Carnation, and it features 4 astute characters singing the lyrics in a parody of the dandy lifestyle. And the lyrics read here on the screen: "Pretty boys, witty boys, you may sneer at our disintegration. Haughty boys, naughty boys, dear, 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 swooning with affectation. And as we are the reason for the 90s being gay, we all wear a green carnation." So while it was created as an empty mystery, the green carnation would become indelibly associated with Wilde, and furthermore known as a subtle symbol of Victorian homosexuality. So if you see it in the future, now you know where that came from. The next one I wanted to bring up, some of you may be familiar with, is violets. So this is the one that I was talking about, dates all the way back to 600 BCE. Violets have been used since then as a symbol of love between women, originating with the ancient Greek lyric poet Sappho. Sappho. Several fragments of her poems. She's said to have written over 10,000 lines of poetry, and only about 600 remain on, as you can see in the picture on the left, scattered fragments of papyrus. It's a really interesting experience to try to read Sappho on these just broken apart pieces of papyrus. But several fragments of her poems have lines describing a lover wearing garlands or crowns of violets, like in this translation by Mary Barnard. It's a poem that starts, "I have not heard one word from her. Frankly, I wish I were dead. When she left, she wept a great deal. She said to me, 'This parting must be endured, Sappho. I go unwillingly.' I said, 'Go and be happy, but remember, you know well whom you leave shackled by love. If you forget me, think of our gifts to Aphrodite, and all the loveliness that we shared, all of the violet tiaras, braided rosebuds and dill and crocus twined around your neck, myrrh poured on your head, and on soft mats, girls with all that they most wished for beside them, while no voices chanted choruses without ours, no woodlot bloomed in spring without song. And it trails off there. We really only have one fully complete poem of Sappho's in the entire canon of her poetry, which is sad. But there are some points at which the fragments become their own really interesting piece of poetry. Here's another translation of the same poem. For many crowns of violets and roses at my side you put on. Sappho may have mentioned violets repeatedly due to the connotation as a symbol linking brides to Aphrodite. She wrote a lot of bridal hymns at the time. And so while the violet as a symbol for women loving women originated in ancient Greece, its use actually expanded in modern times. By the 20s, violet was a common slang for homosexuality, much like lavender, specifically associated with women loving women. This reference and use of the violet flower as a symbol of love between women was catapulted into popularity, however, in the late 20s by an adaptation of a play by Edward Bourdet called The Captive, or Le Prisonnier in French. And this put lesbianism on the spotlight for the American stage in a big way. It was performed in 1926 on Broadway, and the play features a romance between two women. The lead character, Irene, is, quote, a lesbian tortured by her love for Madame d'Aulgenay, but pretending engagement to Jacques. Though Irene attempts to leave Madame d'Aulgenay and marry Jacques, she returns to the relationship, saying that it is, quote, a prison to which I must return captive, despite myself. After returning from her honeymoon with Jacques, Irene receives a package from the Madame and opens it to find a corsage of violets as a symbol of her love for Irene. This reference was well known enough by this point that it caused a huge scandal. New York police raided the theater and shut down the production for scandalous behavior. The lead actors were arrested and charged with offending public morals. And after 160 performances, the play was closed on February 27th, 1927, yielding to pressure from censorship advocates. And furthermore, New York even adopted new obscenity laws for the theater, banning plays, quote, depicting or dealing with the subject of sex degeneracy or sex perversion. So The Captive set a precedent, causing an association of violets with lesbianism that lasted decades. So you can see on the left here is a clip from the newspaper saying, hey, we shut down this show. And on the right, you can see the two lead actresses, Ann Taylor and Helen Menken in The Captive. The queer connotations linked to the violet were so ingrained and provocative at this point, and with what happened with this play, that New York actually saw a sharp decline in violet sales, if you can believe it. What had previously been seen as an innocent flower, something that was often worn by debutantes and virtuous female celebrities to say, hey, look at me, I'm young, I'm virginal, I'm beautiful, lost favor in a huge way. The November 1934 edition of Harper's Bazaar wrote, quote, way back in the Violet County last year, they were still cursing this play as the knell of the violet industry. In Paris, however, the reaction to the play in its subsequent banning was vastly different than the anxiety expressed by middle-class American audiences. Lesbian groups in the audiences at the performances of La Prisonnière in France actually pinned violets to their lapels and belts to show solidarity with the characters and subject matter of the play. So folks that you might see going to these performances were like Natalie Clifford Barney, Renee Vivienne, just a whole bunch of the 1920s Parisian lesbian circle. Next one that was actually a new symbol for me to learn. I don't know how many of y'all are familiar with this, but chrysanthemums. So the chrysanthemum flower was not only the emblem of the imperial family in feudal Japan, but was also the most recognized and used symbol to discuss nanshoku, which refers to male-male intercourse and relationships during feudal Japan, due to its resemblance to the anus. I don't know if you can see the significance there, but a couple of phrases that show up in medieval Japanese literature are Kiku no Chigiri, translated as chrysanthemum tryst, and Kiku Osobi, chrysanthemum play, which both mean homosexual intercourse. And in many different erotic illustrations during the Tokugawa medieval period, you can see trysts on top of chrysanthemum patterned fabrics as a motif in erotic illustrations at the time. Next one is the pink triangle. Many of you are probably familiar with this one. I'd say this is probably the symbol that is most well known among the queer community, other than the rainbow flag. So it has an origin in the 1930s, but didn't start to find use as a gay liberation symbol until the 1980s. Its origins as a symbol in general come from Nazi Germany during World War II and the Holocaust, used to identify homosexual male prisoners. Homosexuality was made illegal in Germany in 1871 with the implementation of paragraph 175, which was a section of the German Criminal Code, which stipulated that homosexual acts between men were punishable with imprisonment and loss of civil rights. However, this was rarely enforced until the rise of the Nazi Party in the 1930s. When Adolf Hitler rose to power, the persecution of LGBTQ people was intensified, and during the course of the Nazi regime, approximately 10,000 men were arrested for homosexuality. The symbol of the upside-down pink triangle was sewn into their clothing in the concentration camps to mark them as homosexual, as you can see on the right, much like the yellow stars were branded upon Jewish prisoners. The Nazis also used brown triangles to mark Romani, green for criminals, blue for immigrants, purple for Jehovah's Witnesses, and the black triangle was used to mark asocial prisoners, among which sex workers and lesbians were included. Years later, some attempts to reclaim the pink triangle were made in early gay liberation movements, starting with a West German gay liberation group called Homosexual Action West Berlin, or Gay Action Group of West Berlin. It is abbreviated as HAW. It was founded in 1971 by college students, and HAW became the first group in the world to officially adopt the pink triangle as a gay liberation logo in 1973, following the 1972 publication of the first autobiography of a gay concentration camp survivor titled The Men with the Pink Triangle. According to Peter Hedenstrom, one of the founding members of HAW, the symbol worked for the emerging movement because, quote, at its core, the pink triangle represented a piece of our German history that still needed to be dealt with. By the end of the 1970s, the symbol had spread from West Germany to being an international symbol and synonymous with the gay liberation movement. However, many, including Harvey Milk, were understandably uncomfortable with its traumatic history. However, in 1986, the symbol was solidified as a universal sign of queer resistance with the creation of the Silence Equals Death Collective, a group of 6 New York activists who created a poster featuring the pink triangle facing upwards and the words "Silence Equals Death" in large block letters, meant to call attention to the AIDS pandemic that had already claimed more than 5,000 lives of gay men at the time. Their idea in changing the orientation of the triangle to stand on its base appropriated the triangle that had been used as a traumatic and violent symbol, instead, quote, conveying the strength of an otherwise stigmatized social position, according to Andy Campbell, who's the author of Queer by Design, which is a fantastic book that I used for a lot of research for this. Go check it out. if you can order some books online. Shortly after, the poster was adopted by ACT UP and became an everlasting symbol of AIDS advocacy. The pink triangle continues to feature prominently in LGBTQ imagery. For example, it was the logo for the March on Washington for Lesbian and Gay Rights in 1987. And you can see it today on LGBT historical markers in New York City for a project called Queer Spaces, Places of Struggle, Places of Strength by the artist collective known as Repo History. This one on the left here is a little marker commemorating Marsha P. Johnson, who is a perfect person to highlight for this month of Pride and Black Lives Matter revolution happening right now. And also, I really like this organization on the right. This is the logo for an organization called Black and Pink, which is a prison abolitionist movement and organization. They aim to end the prison industrial complex and to connect the public to incarcerated LGBTQ prisoners. Our next symbol that we're going to talk about is the Lambda. This is one you might be familiar with if you might have seen it on college campuses. The Lambda's origin as a queer symbol actually begins with graphic artist Tom Dorr, who was one of the founding members of the Gay Activists Alliance, or GAA. The Gay Activists Alliance was a group that split off from the Gay Liberation Front in 1969, aiming to focus explicitly on gay and lesbian issues. The GLF had a little bit more of a broad approach. They were in New York City, and Tom Dorr designated the Greek letter as the group's symbol in 1970. He originally designed the Lambda as a gold or yellow symbol on a blue background, but it was frequently depicted on lavender on a white background, which is what really took off. The significance of Dorr choosing the lowercase Greek letter Lambda as its symbol is kind of steeped in speculation and rumor. There's a whole bunch of different kind of explanations for where it came from and what it means, but I think that the text accompanying Dorr's original drawing on a flyer by the GAA says it all, where it says, "For the sciences of chemistry and physics, the Lambda symbolizes a complete exchange of energy, that moment or span of time witnessed to absolute activity. An ancient symbol brought to application centuries from its origin, Lambda is the 11th lowercase letter of the Hellenistic alphabet. The Lacedaemonians or Spartans bore it on their shields, a people's will aimed at common oppressors. Likewise, members of the Gay Activists Alliance uphold it as their symbol before the nation. It signifies a commitment among men and women to achieve and defend their human rights as homosexual citizens. Activism is the operative term. Political involvement that is both assertive and effective is GAA's prime thrust. In the struggle against oppression, a cultural bond develops, suffused with human energies. The Lambda now affirms the liberation of all gay people." So the GAA adopted the symbol en masse and printed it on all of their apparel and press materials, and due to the GAA's sponsoring of public events for the LGBT community, the Lambda quickly spread outside of GAA activities and became a growing symbol for gay liberation and a way to discreetly identify community members. It could be something that would easily be mistaken for a fraternity letter. So if you needed to, kind of be more under the radar, it was a great symbol to find community but not out yourself. The symbol was declared an international symbol for gay liberation and rights when it was adopted as the symbol for the International Gay Rights Congress in Edinburgh, Scotland in December 1974. And today the Lambda is still in use, albeit less frequently than the 70s and 80s. Many university LGBTQ student associations use the Lambda in their names and logo designs, and LGBTQ fraternity and sorority groups use it in their chapter names. Legal organizations and other businesses have adopted the symbol for their own use. So here's a couple of examples. We've got, there's Lambda Legal, Lambda Literary, there's a couple of sororities and sororities. There's Delta Lambda Phi, which is a social fraternity founded by gay men. Gamma Rho Lambda, the UCLA Lambda Alumni Association, And there's also the Lambda Literary Foundation, which is an organization for LGBTQ writers and hosts the LAMI, or Lambda Literary Awards, annually. So you can see a LAMI little medallion right there. Next up, we've got interlocking gender symbols. The astronomical symbols have been used to represent men and women respectively since ancient times, referring to Roman gods of war and love, so Mars, Ares in Greek, and Venus, Aphrodite in Greek, and associating stereotypical binary aspects and roles of men and women with the associated gods. So the Mars symbol depicts the shield and the spear of the Roman god of war, and the Venus symbol depicts the hand mirror or distaff of the Roman god of love. In the 70s, it became popular among gay men to use two interlocking Mars or male symbols to represent homosexuality, and lesbians began to adopt the interlocking female symbols for love between women. The concept has seen countless variations and expansions on the basic theme and formula to represent various relationships, identities, and genders throughout the years. For example, on the left here, we've got an example of a bisexual interlocking symbols. You might also see this as you'll have like three of them in kind of a triangle. There's also the transgender symbol, combining Mars and Venus up on the left here. I'm going to see if I can do a little pointer. There we go, right here. And then, sorry, I'm moving between a couple of different, there we go. So combines Mars and Venus. It's a mix of, basically you've got a mix of female, male, and androgyne. And it was specifically designed by Holly Boswell, Wendy Parker, and Nancy R. Nangeroni in the 1990s. There's also, there's a trans symbol utilizing Mercury, which is right here. In Greek mythology, Aphrodite had a child with Hermes, also known as Mercury in Roman mythology, and the child's name was Hermaphroditus or Hermaphroditus, and had ambiguous genitalia, thus the origin of the now antiquated term hermaphrodite. Intersex is the preferred term. Since there's no specific symbol to represent Hermaphroditus, the symbol for Mercury was adopted as one way to represent the trans and intersex community, and you can see it in a lot of different scientific literature as just a representation of a unisex signifier. It's also the botanical symbol for hermaphroditic plants. And then we've got a couple of different versions on non-binary variation. So this first one here was designed by a Tumblr user named Jonathan R. in 2012, specifically to represent non-binary individuals. The use of the X was a decision made as a way to represent non-binary identities that don't fall into strict binary categories. And then you can see it was also expanded upon to kind of be adjusted to look like an asterisk. So kind of outside of a binary. This is one that I found really fascinating. Nautical star tattoos, traditionally associated with sailors and pirates, and it's one of the most widely known tattoo designs. It originates with, like I said, with sailors who used the North Star as a navigation aid. So many sailors tattooed the nautical star design on themselves as a good luck symbol in hopes of returning home safely. It was adopted by military personnel as well, again with the returning home safely motif, as well as those in the punk scene, tracing back as a reference to Sailor Jerry. However, I was surprised to find that it also has a history as a lesbian symbol. So it was popularized in the late 1940s and early 50s, where some lesbians utilized tattoos as a method to recognize one another, getting nautical stars tattooed on their wrists. Historians Madeline D. Davis and Elizabeth Lepofsky Kennedy write in their 1993 book, Boots of Leather, Slippers of Gold, The History of a Lesbian Community, which is their ethnography on working class lesbian communities in Buffalo, New York, pre-Stonewall liberation, they note, quote, "The cultural push to be identified as lesbians, or at least different, at the time was so powerful that it generated a new form of identification among the tough bar lesbians, a star tattoo on the top of the wrist, which was usually covered by a watch. We can trace this phenomenon back to an evening of revelry in the late 1950s when a few butches trooped over to Dirty Dick's tattoo parlor on Chippewa Street and had the tiny blue 5-pointed star put on their wrists. Later, some of the femmes did this. Some of the femmes of this group also got the idea one night and did it. The community views the tattoo as a definite mark of identification. The Buffalo police knew that the people that had the stars on their wrist were lesbians, and they had their names and so forth. That it was an identity thing with the gay community, with the lesbian community. They note that the star was actually one of the first symbols of lesbian community identity that veered from the butch femme dynamic and imagery that was common in the 1940s and 1950s. Next one you might be familiar with, we have the Labris. So some folks might be familiar with the lesbian flag as a double-headed axe on a purple background. But even before the concept of flags as identity markers for queer people was popularized by Baker with the rainbow flag, the Labris was popular as a lesbian symbol in the 1970s. The Labris was a double-headed axe wielded by the Amazons, the mythical matriarchal warrior society of ancient Greece, going back to ancient Greece, so many of these, as well as with the Greek goddesses Demeter and Artemis. The Labris was adopted in the 70s by feminists as a symbol of radical lesbian feminist efforts meant to represent women's strength and self-sufficiency. It was printed on t-shirts, buttons, jewelry, and more, and it appeared on the cover of books like Gyne Ecology, The Meta-Ethics of Radical Feminism by Mary Daly, in which she, according again to author Andy Campbell, quote, imagines being smelted from the gathered tools of patriarchal oppression. Daly read the axe's double edge as a metaphor for the amazing female mind, which must be attuned to the many impediments to women's liberation. So you can see here, I've got some historical Labrises, and then this is an image from our collection. I really love this shield here with "Fight Back" and the Labris on it. So some symbols last for decades and are widespread throughout all the world, and some experience a brief moment of popularity and then fade. The Lavender Rhinoceros is one of those, and it's one of my personal favorites. It was designed by two artists in Boston, Massachusetts, named Daniel Thaxton and Bernard or Bernie Toll, and they debuted this image in 1974 as part of a public ad campaign for gay media action advertising. It was intended as a symbol of strength and resilience of the queer community. As Toll explained, the rhino was specifically chosen because, quote, it is a much maligned and misunderstood animal and, in actuality, a gentle creature. The purple, of course, comes from the mixture of pink and blue, a symbol of unity and merger between masculine and feminine, and a small red heart was added on its rump to evoke the gentle characteristics of the animal. As Andy Campbell writes in Queer by Design, the rhino's personality characteristics, gentle but tough when provoked or angered, seemed to speak to the position of LGBTQ people. Thaxton and Toll disseminated the images through ads plastered on Boston's buses and subway systems. They hoped to encourage the visibility of the queer community in Boston with the ads, sending out press packets to try to drum up public support to run them on the MBTA in time for Pride. However, there were rising costs for the ads, and the advertising company actually tripled the cost of the campaign by refusing to categorize the ads as a public service project. Because of this, gay media action didn't have the funds to cover the cost, and the ads were put on hold, prompting them to challenge the decision through organizing a protest campaign where they sent hundreds of letters to MBTA and MTA, as well as hired a lawyer to represent their case in court. Ultimately, the transit authorities, the MBTA and MTA, stood by their price increase and the ads weren't run. However, in response, the Lavender Rhino debuted at Boston's Pride March in force, emblazoned on t-shirts, pins, and signs, and even a life-sized papier-mâché rhino on a float, and instantly became immortalized as a symbol of queer resistance and perseverance. Gay Media Alliance eventually received donations to pay for the increase in ad costs and was able to circulate a small run of ads between December 1974 and February 1975, and it continued to live on as a symbol of the community locally until other symbols like the Lambda rose in popularity. Its legacy still stands today, though, inspiring things like Denver, Colorado's first LGBTQ magazine, The Rhinoceros, and also Theater Rhinoceros in San Francisco, the longest running queer theater company in the world. Handkerchief Code. Most of you are probably familiar with this as well. So the wearing of various colored bandanas around the neck was common in the mid and late 19th century among cowboys, steam railroad engineers, and miners in the Western United States. It's thought that the wearing of bandanas by gay men originated in San Francisco after the gold rush. There was a shortage of women, and so men were dancing with each other in square dances, and they developed a code where the man wearing the blue bandana, usually around the arm or hanging from the belt or in the back pocket of one's jeans, the man wearing the red bandana took the female part of the dance, and the man wearing the blue bandana took the male's part of the dance. The modern Handkerchief Code is another thing that's kind of steeped in a whole bunch of different legend, and different people have claimed, ownership over it. It may have started in New York City in 1970 or 1971 when a journalist for the Village Voice joked that instead of wearing keys to signify top and bottom, men should use different colored hankies. Alan Selby, who we did an exhibition on a couple of months ago, he's the founder of Mr. S. Leather, claimed that he created the first Handkerchief Code when the distributor sent a double order of bandanas, and he and his business partners decided to come up with the code to sell the extra colors they'd received. Bob Dameron's address book is also notable when referencing the Handkerchief Code. So you can see on the right, we've got an image from it. Starting in 1964, a businessman by the name of Bob Dameron published a book of all of the gay bars he knew from his constant travels across the United States. Each one of the listings, every last copy of the book he sold himself, each one of the listings he had visited himself. He basically, just put his entire exploration of all these queer spaces into this book. And they also published a yearly chart for the meaning of each colored hanky under the title color codes. You can see that here. Depending on what color was worn and which pocket the handkerchief was placed in signifies the wearer's sexual preferences for positions and sexual acts. It's less seen in modern use now in some circles, but it is seen frequently at kink fairs and festivals. And some people have surmised that the need for a discrete sexual advertising method, which is something the Handkerchief Code fulfilled starting in the 70s, has kind of gone away in some manners and has been filled with digitizing the process on gay cruising apps like Grindr and Scruff. So here we get to 1978 and the creation of the rainbow flag. I'm not going to go too much into this. We have a whole bunch of information on our website and our exhibition, but in 1978, upon urging from his friend Harvey Milk to create a new symbol to represent the LGBTQ people as an alternative to the popular but traumatic pink triangle, Gilbert Baker started work on what would become the most iconic and prolific representation of the LGBTQ community around the world. As Baker mentioned in an interview with Metro Weekly, he said, quote, "We needed a logo, a symbol. We needed a positive image that could unite us. I sewed my own dresses, so why not a flag? At Harvey's behest, I went about creating a rainbow flag. I'd never felt so empowered, so free." He knew the new symbol had to be a flag and was inspired by the American flag and its power. It was the bicentennial in 1976, and he saw the American flag being put on everything. He said, "Flags are about power. Flags say something. You put a rainbow flag on your windshield, and you're saying something." So here's a nice little showcase of the original colors of the 1978 flag. It debuted to the public on June 25th, and it was hand-stitched and dyed by a team of 30 people and raised in the United Nations Plaza as a gesture of the flag as an international symbol. So we had 8 colors in the original flag, as you can see here, all representing something empowering to the community. Hot pink was removed due to dye expenses, and then turquoise was removed in order to have a flag that could be evenly split in half, resulting in the 6-color rainbow flag that's common today. So what happens, once we get this flag that goes everywhere and is being seen all over the world? Flags for everybody! Since Gilbert Baker and his collaborators debuted the flag in 1978, all corners of the LGBTQ community have embraced the process of creating unique and beautiful flags to represent various identities. Gilbert was right. A flag is a powerful symbol and a powerful item to claim and adopt. Since 1978, dozens of flags have been created, and more are popping up each day with the current generation of queer youths on the internet. The relationship between Baker's flag and some of these other flags has been referred to by some, including the creator of the trans flag, Monica Helms, akin to national versus state flags. They're not meant to invalidate one another, but to be individual representatives of parts within a whole. The rainbow flag is all-encompassing, but each of these flags represents specific communities, and each identity has its own history and culture and significance. So here's a few. I've got this nice little overview for it, and we're going to go through the history of some of these symbols. Thank you also, Randy Alfred, in the comments for giving a whole bunch of extra information on things. So first one I wanted to highlight is the bisexual flag. So this was designed by an artist named Michael Page in 1988, at a time where people were uniting under the iconic rainbow flag, but it seemed to only belong to gay and lesbian people. Bisexual people felt that they needed a flag of their own as an effective tool to unite the movement. Wendy Curry, the then president of BiNet USA, said, quote, "We wanted to let the larger world know that we're here, we're proud, and we demanded respect." Michael Page took his inspiration from the bisexual triangles motif that was already in use. I couldn't really find specific origins for this symbol, so if anybody has information about that, let me know. So it consisted of 2 intersecting pink and blue triangles converging in the middle to make lavender. And this was the first symbol to use the pink, purple, and blue color scheme to represent bisexuality. It's, the history is somewhat mysterious. There doesn't seem to be a clear-cut origin or definitive source. We obviously get the pink triangle from its origins in the Holocaust, and then its adaptation to a queer liberation symbol in the 1980s. But what do we make of the blue? It might have been added as a foil to the pink, and the overlapping area represents the middle ground that bisexual people exist in, with attraction to multiple genders. So Michael Page expanded on and clarified on this idea of the intersecting colors from the biangles into a powerful flag. He used magenta at the top to represent those attracted to the same gender, royal blue at the bottom for people attracted to other genders, and then a central lavender stripe for bisexuality, and as a link to the larger queer community, referencing the history of lavender as an LGBTQ color. He also addressed the issue of bi-invisibility with the design of this flag. Page said, "The key to understanding the symbolism in the Pride flag is to know that the purple pixels of color blend unnoticeably into both the pink and the blue, just as in the real world, where most bi people blend unnoticeably into both the gay, lesbian, and straight communities." The flag's first public official outing was on March 22nd, 1999 at the Equality Begins at Home rally in Tallahassee, Florida, where it was caught on camera and included in a front page photo of the rally. And then we have the trans flag. It was created in 1999 by a co-founder of the Transgender American Veterans Association, Monica Helms. She debuted the flag at a Pride celebration in Phoenix, Arizona in 2000, and its colorway, light blue, pink, and white, has been embraced widely by trans people around the world. Helms describes the meanings of the flag's colors. She quotes, "The stripes at the top and bottom are light blue, the traditional color for baby boys. The stripes next to them are pink, the traditional color for baby girls. The stripe in the middle is white for those who are transitioning or consider themselves having a neutral or undefined gender." She also designed the flag to be symmetrical in order to make it so that no matter which way it is flown, it's always correct, signifying trans people finding correctness in their own lives and living authentically. And you can actually see the flag once we're allowed out of our houses. You can actually see it in the Smithsonian Museum, where she donated it in 2014. She donated the original flag. Next up, let's talk about the lesbian flag, or a lesbian flag. There isn't currently unified consensus around a lesbian flag that's been widely adopted, and there have been various designs that have popped up throughout the years. So you've got the Labrys flag, which we mentioned before, which was designed in 1999 by graphic designer Sean Campbell. And it features a Labrys superimposed on the inverted black triangle set against a violet hue background. You've got in 2010, the lipstick lesbian or pink lesbian flag. It's 6 shades of red and pink and a white bar in the center. It was originally designed and debuted with a red kiss symbol, and it was introduced in a weblog called This Lesbian Life in 2010. Both the pink and lipstick lesbian flags have been said to represent, quote, homosexual women who have a more feminine gender expression. And then you've got, in 2018, debuted online the Lesbian Community Pride Flag, which takes the general theme of the pink flag and adds a dark orange bar indicating gender nonconforming. And it was used kind of as a response to the pink flag, which was specifically aimed at femme lesbians. There's also some controversy around the creator of that flag having said racist comments online. There's also, people are creating a whole bunch of different variations. There's been a sapphic flag created, utilizing some of the colors of the flowers that Sappho mentioned in her poetry. People have done some really interesting things, but there's not a consensus on a lesbian flag, although you probably will see the 2018 version most frequently in like printed versions. There's the Genderqueer Flag. This one right here, designed in 2011 by genderqueer writer and advocate Marilyn Roxy. According to Roxy, the lavender stripe is a mix of blue and pink, so colors traditionally associated with men and women, and it represents androgyny as well as queer identities. The white stripe, like in the trans pride flag, represents agender or gender neutral identities. And then the chartreuse stripe, which I thought here was really interesting, is the inverse of lavender on the color wheel, and therefore it represents third gender identities and genders outside of the binary. And then following that, you had the non-binary flag, created in 2014 by activist Kai Rowan, who intended the flag to represent non-binary people who didn't necessarily feel that the genderqueer flag represents them. They hoped it would be used alongside Roxy's design. Each striped color represents different types of non-binary identities. You've got yellow for people who identify outside of the binary, white for non-binary people with multiple genders. So you've got the idea of like white being a mix of all of, all of the light. Purple for those with a mixture of both male and female genders, and black for people who do not have a gender, who experience an absence of gender. And there's actually even more flags for various specific non-binary gender identities. The variations are endless. You can see a whole bunch of different variations on specific non-binary identities, like agender, bigender, gender fluid. We've got androgyne, demi-boy, demi-girl. Go online, find a whole bunch of them. There's so very many. The last couple that I wanted to go through are the Pansexual Flag, which was designed in 2010 by Tumblr user Jess Jasper. It features a similar design to Paige's Bisexual Flag. It substitutes the lavender central band with yellow, representing attraction to people who identify as androgynous, gender fluid, or non-binary. And then we have the asexuality flag. The ace flag consists of 4 horizontal stripes, black, gray, white, and purple from top to bottom. The flag was created by AVIN, which stands for Asexual Visibility and Education Network, by a user on their website called Stand Up in 2010 as a part of a community effort to create and choose a flag. The black stripe represents asexuality, gray stripe for the gray area between sexual and asexual, the white stripe represents sexuality, and the purple stripe represents community. In addition to the flags, the asexual community also signals connection to one another with a symbol of wearing a black ring. It's worn on the middle finger of one's right hand as a way to signify your asexuality, and it's deliberately worn in a similar manner as one would a wedding ring to symbolize marriage. And use of this goes back to about 2005. And there's even variations on different flags for wherever you are on the romantic and sexual spectrum of agender or aromantic or asexual. And then we have the Intersex Flag. This was created by Morgan Carpenter of Intersex Human Rights Australia in July 2013 to create a flag that is, quote, not derivative, but is yet firmly grounded in meaning. The organization describes the circle as unbroken and unornamented, symbolizing wholeness and completeness and our potentialities. Intersex people are constantly still fighting for bodily autonomy and genital integrity, and so the circle symbolizes the right to be who and how we want to be. And then we even have variations on the rainbow flag that Gilbert Baker created in 1978. This one on the left you may have seen was created in 2017 by the Philadelphia Office of LGBT Affairs. They proposed adding a black stripe and a brown stripe to the rainbow flag, tasked with addressing a bout of racial violence that was happening in the community. As one of the supporters of this flag noted, quote, with all of the black and brown activism that's worked to address racism in the gayborhood over the last year, I think the new flag is a great step for the city to show the world that they're working towards fully supporting all members of our community. The one on the right here, sometimes called the Progress Pride flag or the intersectional flag, was created by Daniel Quasar, who went a step further in the design. It was created in 2018. And Quasar added the black and brown stripes along with the colors in the trans flag created by Monica Helms as a chevron on the hoist of the flag, meaning to signify the work that still needs to be done in the community, ensuring inclusivity, safety, and advocacy specifically for queer people of color and for trans people. And then moving away from flags a little bit, I wanted to highlight a very important symbol kind of post the creation of the rainbow flag. We've got the AIDS awareness ribbon. It was created by the Visual AIDS Artists Caucus, inspired by the custom of tying a yellow ribbon around a tree to welcome military or convicts back home. The group developed the red ribbon to be a symbol of the HIV and AIDS epidemic. They chose red to stand for blood, passion, anger, and love. And after the ribbon debuted publicly at the '91 Tony Awards, it exploded in popularity, so much so that visual aids couldn't even keep up with production, and they had to hold ribbon bees, where attendees assembled the ribbons by the thousands to distribute. The Ribbon Project made clear the political and community spirit of the symbol, stating their requirements regarding their decision to never copyright the symbol. They said, remain anonymous as individuals and to credit the Visual AIDS Artists Caucus as a whole for the creation of the Red Ribbon Project and to not list any individual as the creator. Keep the image copyright free so that no individual or organization would profit from the use. And use the red ribbon as a consciousness raising symbol, not as a commercial or trademark tool. The red ribbon remains one of the most recognizable symbols of the AIDS pandemic, and it has expanded beyond LGBTQ communities in the United States. It's a global symbol for the fight against AIDS. And then, excuse me, finally, we have kind of the expansion of flags into even specific subcultures, excuse me, specific subcultures and even kink communities. It's moved beyond a signifier of the LGBTQ community specifically. So some examples you have are the leather pride flag, which was created by Tony DeBlaze or Tony DeBlase. I'm sorry if I mispronounced his name. Who's a founding member of the Leather Archives and Museum in Chicago. And it was unveiled in 1989 at the International Mr. Leather competition. DeBlaze left the design up for interpretation, but it's clear that it invokes the dress of the leather and BDSM community with black leather and blue denim, and then the heart I take to represent the mutual consent of everyone involved in kink activities. There's also the Bear Brotherhood flag, created by Craig Burns in 1995. There's a rubber pride flag, a polyamory flag designed by Jim Evans in 1995, and a pony play flag. And then to kind of wrap things up and to move into the workshop section of this evening, I wanted to really posit the notion of where do we go from here? More flags, as you saw, are being proposed and designed every day by the current generation of queer people. Just in the last 10, 15 years, there have been so many additions. There are Reddit groups like Queer Vexillology, encouraging people to come up with their own unique flag designs every day. There are so many variations. People are consistently updating them. So I am asking the question now, what will we see in the future? And what will we see immediately right now as we move forward and we challenge you who are being a part of this workshop to create or rehash your own symbols and flags that you want to represent yourself or represent your loved ones. And so with that, I would like to pass it over to Lena, who will be Bob Rossing it up. I'm gonna take my my screen share off.
Thank you, Leigh. Yeah, so I think now we're gonna move into the more interactive workshop portion, in which hopefully all of you will be making your very own flags. So you can choose to make a flag that represents you or a community you're part of, or maybe you just really dislike one of the flags and you want to redesign it, or think that you can do better, which I believe you absolutely can. So I just wanted to, before we get started, and you can start while I'm talking, talk about vexillology and vexillography and kind of creating flags and some tips and things to do that. So I have a little overhead view, which we're going to switch to now. Okay, So we have some like tips that I want to give out just for making good flags that I wanted to start with. So these are 5 tips, but I do want to remind you that they're not really rules so much as guidelines for like what a good flag design looks like. So the first one is to keep it simple. So you want your flag to not have too many complicated elements so that it is easily recognizable and can be like transferred into other cool designs. The second is to use meaningful symbolism. Hopefully you got some really good ideas from Leigh's talk of some different symbols you can use to represent a community or yourself or anything like that. The third is, I think, the most flexible rule. It's to limit the number of colors that you use. So typically you're only supposed to use really 2 to 3 colors, but successful flags in the LGBTQ community have proven that that's not really a rule that needs to be followed, like the 6 flag Gilbert Baker, the 6 color Gilbert Baker pride flag. So that one definitely feel free to play with, but at the same time, that rule is there to keep your flag legible and prevent it from being too busy, that sort of thing. So the fourth one is to avoid lettering. Typically, flags don't have words. That's a pretty self-explanatory one. And the fifth is an either or, so either be distinctive or be related. So you don't want to just copy someone else's flags, but also you can take inspiration from other flags. You know, flags that are like subsets of other communities are constantly taking inspiration from them. And so you can definitely refer to other flags, but try to, you know, keep it, you know, don't plagiarize. And again, all those rules meant to be broken. They're optional. Do what you want. It's your workshop. So then I also have just a little note on colors and some like color symbolism. So in good design in general, it's just a design tip. So colors that look good together are often complementary colors. So we have complementary colors here, which are based on like the color wheel that you learned in school. And so each of the primary colors has a coordinating complementary color. And these colors often look really dynamic together because of the ways in which they're different. So for example, yellow and purple are complementary colors, and we know yellow and purple from the non-binary flag. And that's one of the reasons that that flag is so like aesthetically pleasing color-wise, is that it uses those complementary colors. And then alternatively, you can invert colors if you use a the system that, you know, computers use to see colors, which is red, green, blue based. So each of those have an inverse, which you might know from printer ink. So cyan, magenta, and yellow, respectively. So the inverted colors also look great together, but an interesting thing is that maybe you want to create the opposite of an existing flag. You can think about like inverting those colors. So for example, like the lesbian flag is mostly like red, magenta, those sort of like warm colors. So let's say that you wanted to make a gay male flag, you could make it similar to the lesbian flag, but like try to do more like cyan and green to be almost the opposite of the lesbian flag, as an example. So also when we were talking about color symbolism, colors mean a lot of different things. I have some examples down here, but you know, feel free to either invent your own or think about ones that already exist. So when you're choosing colors, you can think about the different things that they might mean. So like, for example, Gilbert Baker had all of the color meanings for his flag, and some of those were like established things, and some of them were just things he made up that the colors could represent. So like in queer communities, you see purple popping up all the time, you see pink for women and blue for men, and then you can play off of those to think about how you're using color, or you can just kind of use color because it looks cool. So we're gonna now start the kind of like Bob Ross style of workshop. So I'm just gonna be making a flag. I haven't really decided what I'm gonna do yet, but and Leigh, you can tell me how you want to do this or be in charge of this. If people want to show what they're doing, you can, I don't know, Leigh, up to you how we're doing that.
Hop in here. Yeah. So if you are, working on your flag, or working on whatever symbols you want to create, there's a raise hand button that you should have access to as the webinar attendees. Apologies to anybody who's watching on Facebook, you don't have that ability, but if you're here in the webinar, you can hit the raise hand button, and that'll tell me that you want to showcase whatever you're working on, and I can put your video up on the screen, or you could even just, if you want to just talk about it, I can unmute you and you can kind of describe what you're working on. But I really encourage everyone, even if you just want to, kind of have a setup like Lena's got, or, a video on you working on something, I think it'd be really fun to have us all kind of come in and work on these things and chat as we're going. We can kind of turn this a little bit more into a meeting and less of webinar at this point.
Great, thank you, Leigh. Yeah, so let us know if you want to do that. And so jumping in, I didn't really decide before this what I wanted to do a flag for. I was just kind of getting inspiration as Leigh was doing their talk. One thing I really liked was the flowers, how common flowers have been symbols for queer communities. So I was thinking maybe something involving flowers, or I was thinking about redesigning the gender fluid flag, because honestly, I just think there should be some like wavy lines in there, because fluid and the straight lines thing doesn't make sense. There's so many straight lines in pride flags, and it doesn't make sense because we're not straight. So that's one of my ideas. I was also kind of getting this like almost like flower crown idea. From like the floral thing. So I was thinking about maybe doing like a flower crown as like a pride flag for non-binary people who are kind of fall more on the femme side of things, since I am one of those. And so I was thinking about maybe doing like a circular flower crown design. So I'm just kind of sketching out this idea that I have here. So almost like a circular little flower crown, and then on like a blank background could be interesting. I think I'm gonna go with that one, just because I feel like I'm not precise enough to do the gender fluid one in a way that I would like. So I think I'm going to do it a little bit based off of the, oh, and by the way, I just have like construction paper and scissors and tape and like pens and stuff here. You definitely don't need anything fancier than that. So I think like I'm going to take inspiration from the colors that are on the non-binary flag, because I love those colors and they're established, they make sense. Move my laptop here. And so I think I'm gonna do something a little bit based off of that, and maybe I have some construction paper here, and maybe cut some little like yellow and purple flowers out from the construction paper and go with that kind of flower crown idea. I think for me at least, like good flag design really makes a difference in terms of like connecting to communities. I don't know if any of you are like this, but for example, we talked about both the bi flag and the pan flag today. And I personally really don't like the pan flag. I think it's just the design of it, the colors of it, just personally aren't really for me. And I think that's one of the reasons that I identify as bi and not pan, because I don't really like the flag, and that's just kind of my feeling about the flag. I'm not sure if I have these little petals here that I cut out, and I'm not sure if I feel like they're too big for my paper. They might be, so I might cut those a little smaller. And I think that one of the reasons that pride flags end up being used and adopted is their ability to be used in different contexts. like we talk about this on our online Gilbert Baker exhibition, but the rainbow pride flag has been used in so many different ways and in so many different like products and different things that like, that's just something that's literally been repeated everywhere and is just so popular and so easily recognizable. And like that's one of those reasons that that flag is stuck, is because like you instantly get it, and it's just been used everywhere. Okay, so we have this little flower here. I'm liking that. It almost looks like a little lotus to me. So I'm just gonna tape. Oh, I'm gonna not tape things down, because knowing me, I will tape things down and then get annoyed and decide to do something different. So I think I'm gonna start cutting out my purple one and then position everything a little bit better. I'm honestly wondering if I should just use the purple and yellow, or if maybe I should try to use some other colors too. Because another flag I really like is the trans flag. I think that one has a really great design. And I like the kind of baby blue and baby pink on there. Like that's very aesthetically pleasing to me. And of course the white color that is on both the non-binary and the trans flag, I'm kind of using as the background for this one, because I feel like the white has kind of come to represent non-binary genders in one way or another. And I like that. I want to keep that consistent, kind of following that rule of, you know, keeping this will be distinctive, but it'll also still be referencing the other trans flags that exist in the non-binary flag. So I'm just not really like needing these to be perfect. They're just kind of general little petal shapes. And I'm into that. Oh yeah, that's a really good comment by Randy, that a good flag design should also look good when waving in the wind and be identifiable and distinct when flying. Yeah. So we can't forget that that's a flag's main purpose, is to fly. And so, you know, it needs to kind of look good in motion and also, you know, be identifiable up on a flagpole, whether it's waving in the wind or just like down. That's why the upper left-hand portion of the flag, like where the stars are on the American flag, is often considered the like point of honor for a flag. Like that's where your most important thing should be, because that's what's going to be visible when the flag is like on a flagpole, not like out waving. Because that's what flags do, they fly. So I'm just gonna cut a couple more little petals and then kind of decide where to go from there, because I don't have the pressure like Gilbert Baker had of needing this to be created and fly in a parade tomorrow. Luckily, that is not happening to my little flag. All right, I'm wondering if these are maybe too big. They might be. I think I can kind of move them around a little bit and have them to a size I like. I really like that. They kind of look like stars though, rather than flowers, which was not my intention, but like stars are cool too. Maybe I think it's because this one has like 5 sides that it kind of looks like a star. Okay, maybe we'll do another petal so that one looks less like a star. This little guy here, this little scrap I cut.
With the pink petals, and the 5, it kind of reminded me of Patrick Star from SpongeBob.
A little bit, yeah. It does look very like this light. It is purple, I swear. It just looks very pink. Which I don't have a problem with either. Little Patrick Star, like maybe it's a like a Patrick Star pride flag, which I have no problems with.
SpongeBob said gay rights.
SpongeBob did say gay rights. Okay. Oh, this kind of gives me the idea that maybe I could do like a, we could have like in this corner, could have the yellow one, and in this corner I could have the purple one, and then maybe something in the middle. Goofy goober pride. Thanks, Alicia. I don't know if I'm feeling that. I'm very indecisive, which is why this is just terrible for me to be doing, because I cannot make any decisions whatsoever. I think maybe we'll do our little flowers like in this corner, and then the flag will look like this. So we have kind of like the things in the corner, and then otherwise it's like a white flag. These will not be little blobs, they will be flowers once I put them, tape them down. So that's an option I could do. See, again, very indecisive. I could also kind of maybe like do them alternating and then have that be almost a flower. Then I think it starts looking very much like the Intersex flag, which, by the way, is a great flag. It's one of my favorite flags. I think that one has a really good design. I think that one has really good meaning behind it. And it's just like a flag I really love. Oh, I'm into this. This looks cool. Okay, we're figuring things out. This is a process. Design is a process, you know? Oh, okay, I'm getting ideas. So I'm thinking now that we could have little guys like this, and then on the other, filling in these gaps almost, we could have blue and pink ones, because I like, as I said, I like the trans flag, and I like the colors that it uses. And so I don't have a baby blue, but so I think I might cut some petals out of the white and then draw them so that they are, draw on them so that they are that like blue and pink color. And then we can incorporate that too. Okay, so I'm just gonna cut some more petals out.
If anyone wants to showcase what they're doing too, just let us know. Show us that little raise hand, and we can show off.
Yeah, absolutely. We definitely, I want to see what y'all are doing, because I'm sure you have much better design ideas than I do. Not to fault my own work. Leigh, are you making one?
I am.
Leigh, what are you making?
I am thinking of kind of incorporating elements of the trans pride flag as well as the genderqueer flag. Mm-hmm. And there's actually one flag that I didn't show in the design, but it's like it's a flag that was created specifically to highlight queer people of color. Mm-hmm. And it's a rainbow, and then inside of it, it has a circle with a fist, and it has a whole bunch of different kind of skin tones overlaid over it. And I think I really, really love the Philadelphia flag from 2017 and the Daniel Quasar flag. And I really love the idea of, even though the original rainbow flag was intended by Gilbert Baker as an all-inclusive flag to represent all queer people, we're at a really significant point in time where we have to explicitly state our solidarity and commitment to queer people of color and to ending police violence and racism and white supremacy. So I am attempting to kind of replicate that in the middle of a circle that I'm doing with the genderqueer colors. So I'm trying to draw it. Not sure how well I'm succeeding.
Well, that's cool. I really like the meaning behind that.
Yeah. Let's see. We got a couple of people in the in the room. If anybody else wants to show what they're doing.
I'm just still coloring my little petals here. A little hard to see because my white balance is whack, or exposure is whack. Oh, I was gonna do blue ones. Okay. I got carried away with the pink, and I forgot that I was gonna do light blue too. Got so engrossed by what Leigh is doing. Okay, these will be blue. Blue colored pencil. Leigh, do you have a favorite pride flag?
You know, I mean, the rainbow's classic, but I really love the non-binary flag.
That's a good one.
Yeah, you know, it took me a while. It took me a while to really latch onto it. I think like I identified as non-binary more than genderqueer for a while, but I didn't really like the colors of the non-binary flag when I first saw them. But learning the history behind it, learning the reason why the creator chose the colors really spoke to me, and I really loved that. And honestly, in the last couple of years, like I've really embraced the genderqueer flag as well. And I also I really enjoy, there's the demisexual flag is so interesting, is that idea of the chevron. And it's just something different that I hadn't seen before a lot. I'm also really enjoying some of the variations on like sapphic flags that I've been seeing people do online. It's been really interesting to see what people can do with just some bars of color. I think it's really fun.
Right.
People who like totally go outside of the you know, go out of, they create things that are out of left field and not following the kind of, hey, let's do some bars of color. Because I mean, you know, if we think of like flag designs for states and for countries and for nations, like, you know, there's so many of them that completely get rid of the idea of stripes or simple symbols and shapes and go for something totally different. I mean, you know, you look at California's flag and we've got a big old bear. So it's really interesting. I would be interested to see what folks do in terms of like creating new queer symbols and incorporating those specific symbols into different flags. One thing that I was always really, that I was super fascinated by was in the process of researching an episode for my podcast, I found a Shunga woodblock, like a Shunga erotic woodblock of two women that used a Tengu mask. So it's that red kind of like demon-y mask with the big long nose, as a sex toy, as like a strap-on. And there was a tweet that was just like, all right, lesbians, this is our new this is our new emoji. It's so interesting. You know, and things like the nautical star were really interesting for me to learn about.
Right.
I'm interested to see, you know, flags have kind of taken over the conversation. Like people have, you know, have really latched onto flags as they should. It works. But I'm really interested to see like what symbols and signifiers come out of, you know, right now.
Oh yeah, absolutely. My green piece of construction paper fell on the floor. But I think I almost finished with mine.
I am.
I'll show it in a minute.
But I'm trying very hard to draw this. And it's hard because I can't draw very well.
Yeah, that's a mood.
But you know what? Art is just fun.
That is true. Art is just fun.
It shouldn't be held to value statements. You should do art because you enjoy doing art.
Okay. I'm doing a little green circle in the middle to be the center of the flower. I'll just go with one flower. Keep it simple. Okay, and that's my very simple little, here, I'm gonna switch my camera back so I can show it off and be, you know, proud of it. So here's my flag that I made. So it's a cute little flower on a white background. So we have purple and, oh my God, wait, I forgot one of the purple petals. Gotta fix this real quick. Because there's 2 of all of them. Okay, now it's good. So we have purple and yellow and black for the non-binary flag, and then light blue and light pink for the trans flag. And then green in the center, kind of like bringing it all together. Yeah, I don't really know if it's for anyone other than just myself, but I made this little pride flag for me. So it's my flag now, just for me, nobody else. So if anyone else wants to show what they've been working on, let us know. Other than that, if not, I think we can wrap up. And, you know, if you guys finish your flags, you want to show us, you can always like show us and tag us on social media, or just let me know. Yeah,
please, if you have a flag that you want to showcase that you worked on tonight, feel free to tag us on Twitter. I believe our Twitter is at GLBT _history, I think. Or you can post it on our Facebook. We're live streaming this on our Facebook too, so those of you who are not in this little webinar who want to showcase something, you can do that. And I hope that everybody
oh wait, Alicia wants to show hers.
Oh, Alicia wants to show. Awesome. All right, let me show theirs. So Alicia, I'm going to promote you to a panelist and you'll join in. Yes, a really good point by Randy in the comment. One of the reasons that flowers are often stylized on flags is that until the historically recent development of machine printing, flags had to be sewn.
True.
I love that. All right, so let's see. We should be getting. There we go. There's Alicia.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi, Alicia.
Show us what you did.
Yeah, I drew this. I got the colors off of like DNA, and when you're coding DNA, the colors that go together, red and blue, green and yellow. I actually prefer, I did 2 SketchUps. The one without the pink in the middle, just because, I don't know, I really like the pink triangle.
Yeah.
So I wanted to incorporate it because I noticed I had made triangles with the, but I really like the X because that is a new gender marker. And like, I want like hospitals to start using it, and I just identify with the X, and I like that the middle I've left white because that's like all the intersecting colors.
I love that. I love that you've incorporated so many different elements. You know, from like the color theory, from the shapes, from what's going on right now. I have an X on my on my ID right now. I was so thrilled when I could get that. I walked into the DMV to get a new ID for a new address, and I saw that I could do that. I'm like, yes! Oh my God! Just feeling of euphoria being able to do that. So thank you so much for sharing. I hope that you enjoyed.
I did. Thank you for
something
so
kind of new. We were like, how do we do an interactive thing like this over Zoom?
I'm going to share this now, but when you were talking, I just did all the little symbols.
Yes. Oh, gross indecency.
Yeah.
That's excellent.
I love that term.
I love that. I know, it's funny, like I was paying attention to what you were saying so much that I accidentally, this is what I'm working on so far. I was trying to do like a genderqueer symbol, but I did the green all the way over, so I just had to go over it with the purple because I was paying attention. So awesome. Thank you. Is there anybody else who'd like to come in and show what they've been drawing or playing around with? Thank you, Alicia. All right. Well, with that, then I think we will probably wrap up, I encourage everyone to continue working on whatever they're working on, or you are also welcome to work on something later, show us. As always, we'd love to see them on social media. You can also, if you don't want to put it on social media, but you just want to show the society, you can email me at Leigh, Leigh, at glbthistory.org. And to answer your question, Randy, this will hopefully be on YouTube tonight or tomorrow. It takes a little while for Zoom to export the file, but I'm going to get it up as soon as possible, and then we will post the link, and it'll be available on our website.
Yeah, and if you're watching this in the future, still feel free to send us what you make.
Yes, yeah, evergreen. Always want to see really cool new Pride flags and symbols. So happy Pride, Black Lives Matter. Go out, donate to bail funds, donate to the society, go out, do good work. We love you. Wash your hands. Stay safe.
Bye.